All right, guys. So we're just gonna get started. Part one, going over all of the repossessed family paperwork that was retrieved from the family homestead in Cornudas, Texas. Move some of this stuff off of here. Now, first and foremost, let's set some parameters, okay? I'm going over this, but twofold. One, I need to document the evidence that is in my possession and what was recovered. And this is going to be also this is really for people who have been following the Cosmos Initiative crime study. If you haven't caught up, you might not know what's going on. So what you'll want to do is go back and read, and then you'll understand what is happening here. Okay, so I'm not going back, we're moving forward. And this is an attempt for closure for this project because I'm not carrying this into 2021 with me. So I have things to do, people to entertain, life to live. But what I'm doing is I'm passing on information for one, victims of crime. As you know, I've talked a lot about what I did, but what I want to do is pass off information because I feel a period of transition coming up for me. And this is necessary closure, but I think this is a good learning tool for investigators who may have cases that are similar to this. It's a way of incorporating this into your criminal analysis to see if cases that you've had problems with identifying perpetrators, that it may fall under this category of cult-based stalking. So with that said, there's also going to be able to help victims of crime and people identifying this around your refugee camps, your corporations, your private residence, looking out for your neighbor, because often your neighbor, in the case of the Genesis, the Alpha and Omega houses here, usually there is a priori killing up until the time that the actual targeted victim is made contact with. Okay, so there's a lot of increased activity, so I'm also documenting what's happening with me as a researcher and my family. So one step I'm doing right now is I'm going to be taking, this is a camera, it's going to go inside the house, okay? It's going to be mounted and you're going to be able to see the entrance and exit of the building, or I will be able to. Now, the great thing about this is if I'm out of the house, okay, there's a speaker right here, and I can talk to the person in the house, and I can let them, oh, you can't see, I'm sorry. You're going to be able to see that the speaker in the bottom, and you can talk to your perpetrator, okay? And any unauthorized hacks of this will be documented, but you can communicate with the person in the apartment through the speaker from your iPhone app that you can have with you to monitor the inside of your home at all times. Now, with the history of interior and exterior and use of windows and staircases, you want to be able to see what's going on inside your home as well. And if you can afford to do so, you want to have at least a 300 yard or 100 yard a parameter. You might want to hire some investigators to keep watch of the back of your home, your points of entry, your, like in this case, there's a courtyard and a staircase. And because often these are, these require more than one person, okay? And I do apologize for being late because I had a meeting with my daughter's OBGYN and over by what we call E Mountain. And then we have someone who's leaving Sunday to take a driving job. Apparently will be gone 7 months. So, okay, let's get on with this paperwork. Okay, now, first and foremost, I'm going to let you know that I take no great joy in going through this. This is something I'm really wanting to move on with, and this is going to be difficult for me. So, now, I've gone through this, breezed through this, so we're discovering this together, guys, okay? But what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be categorizing this, okay? So right now what we're going to be going through is anything that can create an identity for this property, okay, and my father. Now, the way I have navigated this as an investigator, you know, so maybe it's a psychosocial tip, I don't know, is one, you have to stay really organized, and you have to stay very impersonal about it, okay? So I find I am a better advocate for my family if I just detach emotionally the best I can, because we clearly saw I came back from the house and was very emotionally distraught. So it's taken me a couple days to get to the point where I can go through this. Now, what we're looking at is a little bit of the history. This is from the Council of Indian Nations. Now, one thing you're going to look at here is the double S, okay? And believe it or not, look at this. This is from March of 2014. Now, 2014 is a year marker, okay? Now, we're going to be taking notes. 2014 is a year marker when things really began to escalate. Even though there was a history prior, the year of the escalation date was 2014, which is a key year of escalation for when, as far as the crime study goes, okay? Now, one thing you're going to notice here is when my father made donations, okay, and communications that were pertinent to the going-ons of our family history with that which has here came to a head and led to the desecration of the property and everything that we already know. So you'll see the double S, okay? And again, this is for people who have been following the crime study. Now, what is this? This is a letter, and I posted some of it, but what you have here is basically a letter talking about the extreme poverty of the Southwest Native American, okay? Talking about water and a food shortage. And this, you'll start to see, again, we're giving the property and the project a history, okay? So now this is March of 2014, pardon me, active time, we're taking notes, okay? And you will see here that my parents named it Rainbow Mountain Ranch for that mountain in the back. And that you can clearly see that as of March of 2014, Navajo Nation, Council of Indian Nations, recognized it. Now, not only that, but here you have Chase Bank. There's my father's name, Rainbow Mountain Ranch. There's the 81501 US Highway 62180, Salt Flat, Texas, 79847-9017. So, Chase Bank, Council of Indian Nations, and clearly recognized this address as Rainbow Mountain Ranch under the Morrison name. So, it clearly, and we're going to be going through a lot of this, okay? What we're going to be going through is establishing the fact that this disappeared. This disappeared off the map, okay? Now, why? Why did it disappear off the map? And what do you have to prove, right? So here you have Hudspeth Appraisal District, right? This is January 14th, 2015. Pardon me. Because what I'm doing right now as we go through this is I'm making stacks by year, okay? And then we'll come back through and we'll put it in chronological order and we'll start to put this together. And this is how I find, if you go about this like a cold case, these cases, and then you go all the way back and you establish a chronological date, okay? There's a very, very easy methodology to putting these cases together. Later on, after you put everything through by the year, you're gonna come back and you're really gonna pay attention to original envelopes, and we'll be going through some handwriting analysis that I find is very consistent with thousands of these cases, okay? So that's 2015. Now, this is my father's calendar book, March 2014, okay? So from what I can see, basically what I'm showing you right now is that as I breeze through this and prepare to go over it with you, you can start to see that March 2014, a very consistent pattern of taking notes of his medications, how meticulous he was, okay? And then you see it, it's all throughout here, okay? And there you see his handwriting. My father, now here's the thing, you guys, and this is going to be very important. This is why this is hard to go through for me. He wrote in Old English, okay? And he was an avionics engineer. He filled out tons and tons of avionics records. He had meticulous print, okay? Meticulous printing when it came to numbers and printing, okay? And then you look here and you start to see March 2014, what happens? It's blank, okay? Now, you see here, May 2014, and you can see this has been, it was left like that. So May 2014, see, it's been sitting there for a while, right? And then you go back, and there's nothing here from March, so somehow picks up a new calendar. Now, here's the thing. My father did not use these kind of calendars, okay? He was very meticulous in his journals, okay? So this is just something that came through. And then you see March 11th, which is Mother's Day, March 12th and March 13th, all marked in 3 X's. June is blank. And so really just May, somebody attempted to start keeping records, and that's kind of where it stopped, right? Now, for additional, we're going to start looking at handwriting analysis of my dad, okay? And I want you to pay real close attention to the meticulous handwriting he had. Very neat, very organized. Very neat, very organized. These are things when I told him, Dad, you need to sit down and start writing things down for me in case something happens, because 2014 is when we're going over leasing out the mineral rights. I think it was August or October. I filed my business license, filed for custody. And what you're really going to be seeing here is how this criminal ideology breaks down the ranks of individual families and networks that they identify. Okay, now for individual families or businesses, you break down the family, and the family becomes unstable to run the business, and the business goes under. And then if they're still standing, you put pressure on them that could lead to what may be considered impunity, okay? But then where there's impunity, I have found with these cases, there is generally a corrupt motive behind it, and corrupt transactions and corrupt dealings. And this is what you're going to start to see, how beginning in 2014, which coordinates with the big West Texas oil boom, you start to see how things they start to fall apart, okay? So here's where he put his military, his civilian. This is all of his personal stuff he was trying to leave me. And this one's hard to see, guys, okay? This here, my father is writing down numbers, okay? And I know that this was for my stuff because it was exactly by the grace of God, I was able to find my father's Bible, but my mother's Bible, which is the family Bible going back generations, it was next to her ashes. It is definitely absolutely gone. Now, you can see here, what does my father say? He's taking notes. Collusion of justice, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, state authorized document, conspiracy to commit murder, intimidation of an appointed notary. He's talking about he wants a complete shutdown of companies, state level investigation, harassment, intimidation of legal representative, harassment, tampering of legal documents, revoke notary rights. He's putting down here exactly what needed to happen. Okay, so we were trying to get out of this, and So in the meantime, you know, just about the time this kicks in, right, I'm the power of attorney. They know I'm the one in charge of the property, and they come at my boy, right? So now here's the thing. You think I'm talking about my personal story, but I'm not, okay? I am and I'm not, because this is what I was doing in the cases that I was working on 20 some odd years ago. I've just fine-tuned it over time, and over time through my advocacy and the manner in which that drives this ideology and the targeting of certain families. Okay, so it just kind of, what we see here is just something has come to a surface. It's a generational curse being broken, and I think it goes well beyond just my family, which is why I'm choosing to share. So again, you can see my father's writing. Okay, so that's writing sample, and then you start to see something happening here. Okay, and that is he's putting notes, post-its. He's taking notes. 3 a.m. and this is October 3rd, 2014, at 12244 Montana Avenue, with his Chase card, and it says withdrawal from checking account 1514, $500, right? And you can start to see he's like, wait a minute, that's not mine, right? And you can clearly see here that Blue Cross Blue Shield knew where he was. Okay, so he was insured. Here you have Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. They knew where he was. They know the address. And here, well, I'm going to put this to the side because we're going to get into vehicle registration, because, guys, wait till you see what's going on with these vehicles. You're just going to flip. Okay? Now, here we have October 21st, 2014, okay? This is a release for Dr. Alicia Amaya to complete form, a practitioner statement. Authorization expires October. Now, I'm going to tell you what, pay very close attention to my dad's signatures, because some of these I'm putting in a stack, and we're just gonna take note, and then after I'm done through with everything, there's gonna be a stack of certain documents. I'm gonna pull that back in a different episode, and we're gonna do a handwriting analysis, and I'm gonna show you how these guys usurp identities. Now, they've been doing it for centuries, okay, because what happens is it's just evolved over time. So now, here's the funny thing. December 2014, here's the Hudspeth appraisal, right? And everything's gone through. The mail, the stuff that we needed for the house, but we got a few things, okay? So, now, here's drawings. See, my dad, he was used to drawing schematics for avionics, right? And gables for the house. This was the garage and the center support. See his handwriting? It's very, very, very neat. Okay, very, very particular. Okay, because later on, as you see his signature, he wrote in Old English. If you don't know what that is, because everybody's taking handwriting out of school. And so you can see here, here's the garage south wall. Here's some of the stuff to the house. I don't even know how I had these. And there's a very good example how excellent his writing is. Very, very unique, okay? Very meticulous architect, engineer. Now, hold on. I just did something with that document I said I didn't want to do. Okay. All right, now, just to do a couple more. Here, there were some documents recovered that we start to see someone else's handwriting starts to appear here, okay? And again, there's going to be a whole handwriting analysis, but right now we're just going through documents. And once again, Hudspeth County tax assessor, okay, they clearly knew where the property was, okay, in Sierra Blanca. hold on, I'm going by date. This was September 28, 2009, for goodness sakes. Okay. And then, let's see here. What else is there? This is a mess. I mean, some of it's just, I mean, again, guys, I pulled this out. That was my mother's writing. Right now, her handwriting is not relevant at the moment. Okay, so again, here's some more of my dad's writing, and you can see Monday, March 3rd, 2014, he would keep, there's the VW, there's everything, he was meticulous bookkeeper, okay? Meticulous, which is why you'll see something is up here, because he was trying to keep track of things, and in 2014 he started to see some things go, and then it was very difficult to get out there. We were kind of scattered, and it made it very difficult. We had to make the decision whether or not it was safe to stay away because of the new baby that had been introduced to the family, and I think everybody just did the best they could. That's what I think, and we just got to deal with it. Now, what you have here is, here's May 21st, 2015, okay, and Carolyn Hodge is put down as his attendant's name. This is for the Mission Home Care. Now, he used to be with Nurses Unlimited, and they have the file that they said was transferred to Mission, okay, and then you can clearly see here for this property that disappeared, here's Texas DAD, dad jokes, Department of Aging and Disability, there's the address, they knew where he was, dad's case manager, Norma L. Gonzalez. This is the information that nobody would give me when I was attempting to get it from them remotely. And so this would have been for all the checks for anybody who received money from for in-home care services would have been paid through this and also previously Nurses Unlimited. So what happened is I had hired Nurses Unlimited, and then it got bought out allegedly, it got moved around, and the files disappeared. So what you're gonna see is a lot of times these cases, they do a sleight of hand with documents. Companies will sell the companies, which means they get the records and they can say, oh, well, we're gonna go after past due this, that, and the other. But it's the records that are worth money when you buy the company, because then you put it into collections and you can collect a lot of back money. Now, here's something interesting, okay? Now, remember I told you you need a copy of the records? I've well documented my power of attorney, which was signed by my father and registered with the county. But look here. Now, I got a copy of this shortly after my father's death, right? September 21st, 2018. We're coming up on the 2-year mark. Here you see that she has posted, this was posted April 29, 2015. She paid cash. It was paid by Christina Miller. And number 1, will for safekeeping, right? She couldn't have done this without my power of attorney. So what you have is that the power of attorney, which was put together in 2006 when my father said, okay, I'm starting to get a little squirrely here since your mother's passing and things are increasing, we had a problem. And then I said, okay, well, you know, we'll just work on it together. And then you can clearly see this person was scrambling, okay? Now, Nurses Unlimited, after Dad was killed, and I started asking around, and I have that recording that I documented, okay? It's in the archive, where she was asked for the records, and it was clear that in the records from Nurses Unlimited that Christine Miller, I had her fired, and there is in the file that the lady investigated what was happening. Now, here we have, and this is April 29th, okay? But look at this. That's April 29th, 2015, okay? Now, you have Chase Bank, March 6, 2015 through April 6, 2015. And here she's put on that she is the power of attorney for Christine Miller. Well, no, you weren't. No, you were not. March 6, 2015 through April 6, 2015. Date posted April 29, 2015. It's a cash receipt, which means you walked in. Okay, so now whenever you contact out here, you know, there's some little sleight of hand going on over here at the county clerk, right? So now we know Christina's full of crap, but now it gets worse. Guess what else I was lucky enough to recover? And I hate to say it's luck, but sadly in this case, this is luck. Look here, look what these guys pulled off. They printed off, this is what they printed off and pulled off as a power of attorney. Look at this. This isn't even a legal form. It is not drafted by an attorney. Look at this. Now we're gonna keep track here. So far, now get out your notes, okay? Christina Miller, 2014. This is a lady who was told to stay away, okay? That's 2014. And then she's on the bank information, okay? Now you have Dennis Wesley Morrison, AKA, my father didn't have any AKAs. He knew exactly who he was. Being of sound mind and testifying to the following last wishes. This, come on, corruption investigators, this is classic BS right here. You and I both know it. All my possessions are bequeathed and therefore given to Kent and Deborah Wright. Now, that's number 2, Kent and Deborah Wright, okay? Now, get this. These two are truck drivers too. And they took off shortly after, my dad's death, okay? Who are the purchasers and owners of my former property, okay? My remains are to be cremated at Carrillo Funeral Crematorium. My ashes are to be buried along with my late wife's ashes on the property of 81502. Really? Really? Now, that's not where my dad's body went. So let's say hypothetically in a court of law that, okay, so my power of attorney is no longer good, which isn't the case. It was never legally revoked and couldn't have been. But so we all know that we're looking at fraud here, okay? But even if they were hypothetically, you're already failed so badly in this because you and I both know this is, you can't be, see, oh Lord, I don't even have to oversay it. So here we go, notarized, right? Now, this isn't a legal form. This is straight fraud that they're pulling here, okay? And you see they print off multiple copies, but just hold on, it gets better. So we have a bunch of copies of this, okay. Now we got some names in here of doctors, okay. We got William Beaumont. We have a bunch of different people here, which I'm not going to give out names, okay. And then you have some records here, which I'm going to later go back through, and again, I'm going to categorize all of this, okay? But this was the file that they had, and here's the thing. I'm going to go through, we're going to run all of the medications he was on, we're going to put this all in chronological order. You can clearly see the Department of Veterans Affairs knew who he was, okay? And so we have some stuff here to look through, okay? And here's his discharge. This is the one that I knew of, and discharged him with the understanding that he had a proper caretaker, not someone who was pulling this off. So you'll see here sometimes what they'll start to do. This is a good example. They'll come into an elderly person's life or a Mark's life, and they want to get power of attorney, or they want to lie and float paperwork so they can start to create confusion. This happens in custody cases too. When you're dealing with family court corruption, they'll start to float and pound a lot of paper to create confusion. Sometimes they'll file petitioner and defendant separately in another county, just for the purpose of throwing a cog into the system, where then they can start to say that the defendant is actually the petitioner and gets to choose venue, and then when you get the right to choose venue, you get certain benefits, and so, but it all starts really with the ability, and whenever you give anybody access to your records, okay, you can see here, this was grooming. Now what you're looking at here is, I've showed you the methodology in the crime studies. I walked you through how it affects infrastructure, so how it affects a person's home, okay, through the infrastructure, okay, and how they target, you know, what I walked you through, and I'm going to walk you through the back of the building later after we get through some of this paperwork. But you can see here it was altered to 315, not 815. And then they'll start to add different phone numbers. They'll start to add their number instead of the home number, right? So then they can start to say, well, my number's on the account, right? My number's on the account, right? And so then they can start to call in, and people get used to them. You know, and this is sad because my dad always supported all these projects. Here's Wounded Warrior Project. And for him to be a veteran and be treated so poorly is just absolutely gut-wrenching. It's pretty gut-wrenching. Okay, so this looks like this was all of the, they were floating him through hospital. They were hospital floating him, okay? Now, here's the thing you guys need to understand, okay, is when you talk about a veteran, okay, anybody knows, veterans have a once-in-a-lifetime grant of $10,000 they can apply for a necessary altercation to their, if they own the home, which my dad did, it was paid in full. So when Texas Adult Protective Services floated the idea, and they all tried to float the idea, that the house wasn't inhabitable because the roof in the bathroom was leaking. Well, okay, so $10,000, that could have repaired a roof and put a, which I applied for, and they kept denying, which was a handicap ramp for my dad and a couple other things they were going to look at there. So anything like that, they just ignore. So here, when we start again about handwriting analysis, here's my father's writing. You can see it's very, very meticulous, okay? Now, why is handwriting so important? Because we start to get into things like this, okay? That there's signatures and things that don't match, okay? And that is very predominant on, look what I actually found, Pecos Funeral Home. Have the name and contacts, okay? Now, there should be a signed copy in here, right? It's unsigned. Okay, here's what it came, here's everything that was included. And that means they desecrated, okay, they desecrated my mother's ashes and combined my mother's and father's ashes. Okay, are you getting it? Divine feminine, divine masculine, ashes, okay? So it looks like outer burial container. So again, in most area of the county, so we're trying to hunt down his body, right? Because according to the investigator, who said, oh, your dad's body was picked up by this place, And if you remember, they said it was picked up by somewhere else in Oklahoma. Now, you're going to find out real quick that there's paperwork here for this Tammy woman, okay? So now, let's take our notes. We're going to deal with, we're dealing with the Heritage Funeral Home in Van Horn. We're also going to be dealing with UMC, where he disappeared from, and the discharge record there that stated otherwise, that he went to Oklahoma, okay? Trail of Tears. Now, Funeral Agency, Inc., check this out. This is May 18th, 2015. Addressed to my dad. Look at this. Contract FA0897298. Funeral pre-arrangement for Dennis W. Morrison. And you can clearly see that's not how my dad signs his checks. Please be advised that your prearranged funeral contract has been received. We can assure that you will always strive and stand for excellence. All right, so they basically were floating paperwork. That, to me, shows premeditation. I had power of attorney this whole time, had no idea this woman, these people, were on the property. I just know my dad was saying, you know, there's some things going on out here. You can hear it later in his voice. Okay. That's not my father's writing. And look here. It says right even here, it shows, yeah, this isn't even, they spelled with one S here on the application, but the contract comes through as two S's. So remember, disruption, guys. They want to make it look like different people on paper when they float these things, okay? Now, again, this is not a solitaire. I'm just showing you, but because I can share my own story, I'm showing you how they operate and how you can find out how you're a victim of this and how investigators can help look and what to look for. A lot of this is just standard stuff, but okay, so we have some signatures. We have the agent that sold it. We have information, more information. Okay, but that is not my dad's signature at all on that document, and I still don't see. So we're gonna have to get a copy of the power of attorney that Christine Miller filed. That's fraud. Okay. So we have these billing. Yeah, my dad had, the VA always shipped my dad's medication to him. See? VAHCS El Paso. And see the provider? Pay attention. You need to pay attention here. And then how there's one S over here, okay? On the VAHCS, okay? So that has two S's. And there's his health vet right here. You can see, oh wait, I didn't realize I wasn't on camera. Okay, so over here you can see there's this health vet, okay? Now this is what see, there's gonna be a lot of follow-up here. So there's gonna be a list of handwriting analysis that's gonna come from this. There's gonna be a list of having to go through and call these people. We're gonna be getting through some phone calls and trying to find out what she did here, because this is not his handwriting, and this shows like September 2014. Now this is like, I am in the heat of having my backside handed to me and having my youngest torn apart. My kids were torn apart during this period. Okay, this is like, it was, I refer to it as the initial hit to break down ranks and weaken the family unit to make what would come later a little harder to deal with. A coup de grace, so to speak. So this is going to go into a list of what was canceled, because you'll see as we get into the automobile insurance stuff, it looked like they were floating some stuff. They were floating some stuff with car insurance too. Okay, so I'm gonna put this, and we're gonna start a list of stuff, but I don't want to separate this particular stuff because it's everything they had in one folder, right? So it's important as you go through it that you stay in the mind of the person who assembled it. It's okay to take it out of order, but you should really try to keep it all together and then take really good notes. Like, okay, so this is going to be obviously how they decided to dispose of his body and desecrated my mother's ashes in the funeral place, okay? But this we're going to call on. And then you can see here again, my father had Department of Veterans Affairs. He should have had a military funeral and received his flag. So again, hypothetically, even if they thought for a second they were a great power of attorney, since when don't you at least invite people to organize the military funeral and the burial, and it's not your job to take all the assets and sell everything off. It's illegal what you did. And so what you have, you're going to see that it's basically one person's doing power of attorney, and then the next thing you know, somebody's trying to pull this off, and I mean, it's rather tragic. Okay. Okay, and you can see this was never signed. Okay, so there starts to come stuff through here that they have in this medical file. None of these are legally binding. He didn't sign any of these things. And you know why I think they do that? I think they do it because they don't want, the more they can get away with achieving their goal and not having to leave a trail of a signature, because especially when you have a signature like my father that is so unique and well documented in a 40-year career in avionics and flight journals and inspections and bank records. Look at all these bank records. Look at this. Look at that writing. Hudspeth County Tax Assessor, Van Horn Propane bills, okay? So you can see, and these are from November 2013, you can see he was writing fine, he was doing his stuff. And so I told him, I said, well, you know, I have power of attorney, right? And this is in 2013, but I told him, I said, as long as you're handling your bills. So when we decided to start with launching the humanitarian project, they came at us from all angles, and it took a while. You know, like they say, hindsight's 20/20. It took a while to figure out how they did it, but keep in mind, I mean, I was in the thick of Justice Speaks Up when things really hit, and I lost my own son, and then, well, then you really go hard on your projects, don't you? Okay, so here you have Northern County EMS, so they knew where to find him, and so again, okay, here's where you start to see things get strange, okay? This is William Beaumont Army Medical, okay? This is March 19, 2014. Now, they resort back to Dennis Wesley Morrison Jr., my father is senior. Now, because they do this because they say, oh, it's just an accidental mix-up. But then, HC60 box 31. This is when it was still considered a rural route, and it was later, so originally it was a rural route, and the post lady, you just had to know, the mail woman just had to know where you were. And so everything came into the post office, and then they'd bring it out to the rural route. Later it was given a highway number, okay? And then you start to see, again, how did all of this slowly evolve? So the property originally had 2 different addresses, okay? Rural route, and then it got the 62180 route. So again, you're gonna start to see how they break down the integrity of a file. And they can just go, they intentionally create a lot of errors to create disruptions so they can then go in and try to fix it. And then here again, date of this certificate, July 1st, 2014. This is from the Department of Health in regards to Medicaid, Certificate of Group Health Plan Coverage. There's his name right there, Dennis W. Morrison, 1S815. There's the 62180, same zip code, okay? So now, on the outside, people go, oh, well, this was just a horrible power of attorney and caretaker crime happens all the time. But just wait. Just wait, because you're going to see how this plays out. I'm trying to think out what this is. See, so there's some stuff here that I don't know what was purchased. Contractor cash account. Counter pickup. Okay, I think this is for an oxygen tank. My father was on oxygen. Now, that's going to come into play here in a minute, because before we get into that, there is, look at this. Sorry, I'm not graceful, am I? Okay. Well, we might as well just move into the vehicle, I guess. Well, we'll breeze on it, okay? So, I'm just going to breeze on this. This is the ARP, Auto and Home Insurance, right? Now, I went through this and I marked a couple pieces, okay? First one is this, which is, here's Major Medical, and here's his name again, misspelled with the second S, okay? That's the home number they've had since the phone number went out there. It's been the only number that's ever been assigned there, but this is 2014. So my dad's number was still on as of July 22nd, 2014. Okay, and you can see that this is for oxygen. He was on oxygen, okay? He occasionally had a hard time breathing, but he was doing just fine. Now, not only did my father was he on oxygen and going on 80 years old, but he also didn't have a passport. And if anybody knows that as of 9/11, you have to have a passport to go back and forth between Mexico, right? And here you can see that this is, hold on, sorry. Okay, this is, latest I can get it here, this is a bill for, the statement date is May 15th, 2014, and this is for the insurance, auto withdrawal, which you always did, right? But here's what sticks out. He's retired, right? It says so right on here. And then he's getting Mexico coverage. And again, you can see his car insurance is put under Morrison Dennis. There's the policy number for the VW Jetta that was stolen from him, okay? But here's what my concern is. Just like I have equal concern for the firearms that were taken from the property, those have my prints, my father's prints, they could be used in the crime. Nobody had any interest in doing a proper transfer of firearm. Okay, no. So I still feel like I have a responsibility to locate those weapons. Not only do they belong in the family to have the fire pin taken out because they were my parents' weapons, and one's a family heirloom, but I don't want the responsibility. And law enforcement has a responsibility to locate those weapons and return them to the proper owner or dispose of them at my request. And I'm asking for them to be returned and the firing pin removed. So here you see Mexico coverage, right? That's not standard. Now, my concern is that with the history of trafficking in the area and who I'm dealing with, and I know exactly who I'm dealing with, I am concerned that there may have been a problem with trafficking. Okay, so we're pushing on an hour. I'm going to try and keep this under. Okay, so I'm going to step away and take a break, and then we'll come back for another one, okay?